Hello and welcome to this episode of Point Counterpoint. This is a very special episode, very different from what we've done so far in the last year and a half to 2 years that we've been doing Point Counterpoint. This is certainly not a debate. We can't even call it a discussion. I think this conversation that we're going to have is more of a reportage of a group of service-oriented, selfless people who decided to traverse the entire breadth of India and the length of India, as it were, from Goa to Manipur, and give their selfless service, heal some wounds if possible, touch lives, and just to ensure that humanity knows no boundaries and can cover any distance. We are talking of a group of people who went under the umbrella organization called Street Providence, which decided to expand its horizon out of the sheer need for humanitarian assistance and intervention in Manipur. Of course, led by Donald Fernandez, whom I'm going to introduce very shortly, a team of very dedicated people from various walks of life went in there simply to assess what they could do, with no expectations in return. And this is a story of how they managed to go and meet sufferers in Manipur, talk to people, figure out a little bit more about the local conditions there and their sufferings, as I said, and the pain that they are enduring, and work out a way to go beyond the politics and the hatred and everything else that's been reported from Manipur, and look at a far more crucial need at this point of time: the need to heal wounds and to rebuild futures through small things like education, through health, to a better is again relative, better quality of life under these circumstances, and see to it that some bricks are laid towards the foundation of rebuilding Manipur, both physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, whatever you say. And this is their story, and we are here to hear this story. Very privileged to have all of them in the studios of Herald TV to discuss and share with us the stories and the information they've brought back from there, and throw light a little bit on the efforts that they've made. On my left is Donald Fernandez, who's the trustee of Street Providence and probably the inspiration behind this journey to Manipur. Then we have Advocate Caroline Colasso, who's been here in many other avatars, but today in a very, very, perhaps one of the most important avatars as a trustee of Street Providence, who was also on that trip, fateful trip. Next to me is again another very fine former IPS officer, Bosco George, who's no stranger to conflict and tension, but is somebody who has worked, in the Northeast as well, who accompanied them and played a big role in facilitating many of the logistics which would have been tough without him, and saw for himself, and he will again speak about his experience. On my extreme right is Aruthu D'Souza, environmentalist and volunteer, known to everybody in Goa as a selfless social activist, environmentalist, protector of our lakes, rivers and backwaters, but again took this huge leap of faith, as it were, to get out of his comfort zone and walk into uncharted areas purely because of the humanitarian call that he answered. I'll start with you, Donald. I have no questions, but I just wanted you to respond a little bit to what I said and set the ball rolling on your experience.
So the trip was basically to see how we could provide some assistance and help to the people in Manipur, and it took us almost 30 days, more than 45 days after the violence started to actually put a plan together. And when I put the plan together, I had a fair idea that it's not going to be easy. There will be many players, many supporters, many collaborators involved, and I called Caroline and I told her we need to do something. And as usual, she said, yeah. So then I called Bishop Theodore. I told him we need to do something in Manipur. He said, yeah, sure, we'll help you. What do you want us to do? So I told him you need to make a call to Archbishop
Bishop Theodore was in Ranchi.
Oh, right. Because we have a shelter home with him. We work in Ranchi also.
Right.
So he said, yeah. So he took us on a conference call with Archbishop Dominic Lumen. Father was kind enough to take the call. He understood what we had in mind. He put us on to the right person, and then I called Bosco George. And I told him, sir, we need to go to Manipur. And he said, he said something, and then I relaxed. And after a few days, as he saw, he said, okay, we need to go to Manipur. So during the
time, can you tell us around which date or which week roughly? Just wanted to get a sense of when.
See, we started. So the first call was made on the 15th of June, and the first consignment left Goa on the 24th of June. I mean, it didn't leave Goa. We started the operation by buying the material. It was 24th of June. We sent 5 lakhs worth of generic, 5 lakhs worth of allopathic medicine which we bought in Delhi. Right. It was Sanjao Day, I remember, and the guy said, I'm sending the consignment to Imphal Nagaland by flight, by road, which went, and that day they bought 1 lakh worth of ration in Imphal itself.
I see.
So we did, I think so we did 2 consignments, and then we again spoke to the Archbishop, and he told us to further this operation you need to meet Mr. John Shilsey.
Yes.
So immediately I called Bosco sir again, and I told him, boss, we need. So we had a meeting with John Shilsey, 3 of us. It was a Sunday.
Yeah, he's a former IB officer and a very who's worked in the Northeast.
He fine tuned whatever we had in mind, and then I decided that we sent material. The things were, but I wanted to know exactly, like, are we going to stop only at ration and medicine, or are we only going to run 2-3 sorties and back off? And then I thought, no, this is not going. The reports which were coming from the ground were, this is a long-term
mission
problem which will take time. So we need to be in Manipur itself, and that was the time I decided with Caroline, right now, that we should send a team, and I called Bosco sir, then I called Caroline, then I called Arthur, then I called Father Clifford. He's not here, and he said, yeah, because he had come with me to Jharkhand. We had gone to Jharkhand when we started our work there, and then last we required somebody to capture the moment, so we called Joseph.
Yes. No, we are proud to say that one of our colleagues from Herald TV was also part of that journey and has documented a lot of stuff. So glad to be that Herald could at least be a part of it indirectly, as it were, but still there. Anyway, can I very inspiring stuff that Donald just mentioned. I'd like to ask you as to at what point of time did you personally and collectively think, look, we just need to be there. We are in Goa. Manipur is on the other end of the earth, as it were, to many. But what came about inside you to say that, look, forget everything else, let me be there?
We, even from as groups of women concerned and NGOs were talking about Manipur, were trying to get answers as to what exactly was the trigger point there and how bad is the situation. But given the internet lockdown, we were getting very sketchy information. We just knew 350 camps, 10,000, 50,000, and numbers itself were differing depending on different reports.
Right.
So here on the ground, of course, a lot of the groups that I've been part of have been like condemning the violence against thing, asking for state intervention, calling for peace. But I still thought, I mean, there was all the time this feeling that, unless you really go there, of course it was my family was very apprehensive about me going there. They still were, dissuading me till the last minute that I don't think it's safe enough to go, etc., etc. But I thought that, it's really, unless you really see and actually are there with those people, talk to them, get their aspirations, get their dreams, it will just be okay just sending, as he says, rations, and we didn't want to stop at that.
Right.
It would just be humanitarian aid, which other groups are doing.
Right.
I wanted to be part of something much more long term if we could,
right,
and really let try and understand the ground reality.
Right. Yeah, I'll just come back to Bosco, as a officer and a gentleman both. Tell us, what were your trigger points of inspiration, and what are your learnings from there?
See, as a police officer, we are used to going to the crisis point.
Yeah.
So when this call came from Donald, so would you like to head this? So I said, yes, because one is, I worked in the Northeast, and in Arunachal.
Yeah.
So it is like, coming back to a certain home ground that you would able to do. Now you have to go about it. It's a conflict. You have to understand the conflict. It is such a complicated issue.
Right.
It is also very, very sensitive. If you say something, you say it's intertribal, it is not intertribal. If you say something, I mean, it can just spark off anything, because each one, the insecurity has grown to such an extent that you do not know what can be the trigger that is going to spark off a further riot over there. So we had to restrain ourselves in saying anything. And number two, you can't work independently. You have to work with the organization on the ground. So the one organization was the church authorities, the second is the government authorities. And that helped us, because unless you work with the administration, your end goal, that is to serve the people, get your goods over there, would not be served unless you get both these two. Because the church, because it has people on the ground, and administration, because it helps open many doors to the right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So I thought I could contribute in that aspect. So I said, yes, I will do it. And I'm happy that I could contribute something towards the team that we went over there.
What are your learnings? I'm not asking you to comment on what everybody has been commenting and all that. Of course, we leave that to the national channels or whoever is doing what. What I was more keen to understand for our viewers is that what was the ground level humanitarian situation that you witnessed with your eyes? That's all.
Yeah. Like Caroline also said, there are many organizations that are giving. It is coming over there.
Right.
But it has become so polarized. Like you have to understand, as I said, the valley is the plains. Okay?
Right.
And it is surrounded all around by the hills.
Yes.
Now the hill people are the tribals. The plain people are non-tribals. And there were conflicts in between. Now on one side, towards the Nagaland border, the Nagas. On the Mizoram-Myanmar border are the Kukis. So they had their inter-rivalry between Nagas and Kukis, and between Kukis and Kukis.
That's right.
And also it is with
correct. Yeah, because the Kuki-Naga conflict has been a very old conflict.
Yes, it's a very old conflict.
Yes.
So I think it took a long time for the Kukis and Nagas to get to a reconciliation, and but okay, there is there are undercurrents, but it was there. And then suddenly this the plain. Another thing is in our country, because of the reservation.
That's
okay,
right.
yeah.
That's right. Yes.
Now when you are tribal, there are chances that you may get into the common civil service with greater, while the people in the general category don't get in. Now it so happens that 80% of the population are plain people, and they are in the plains, and the 20% of the hill people are on they are STs. So if you say if there are 10 civil service officers, 8 would be by the tribals and only 2 by the plains.
Non-tribals, yes.
So again, these are layers within layers that have been anxiety, insecurity,
And all
a
this churning
whole-
has exploded with this current situation.
yeah.
Okay, that apart, I'll come to Arudra first and then I'll reverse order. So, Arudra, as I was asking, taking off from the same narrative, if you can, from your eyes, explain, a typical situation that you saw in the camps and other people, how were people living, what were their difficulties, what were the challenges that you faced?
Our first visit was to a Maithei camp, and we were quite taken aback by what the people are going through there, because I was told that the Maitheis were usually the well-settled group of people. So we were really what do you call that? Sort of emotional after seeing those the scenes, the scenario there, especially the type of food that they were getting. It was not very healthy, not very judicious and enough for them to survive. So as we were trying to give them some monetary help as such, there was a lady who we approached and she burst into tears. It looked like, I had a feeling, I thought of it that, usually the Maithis were well settled people, and what have they reached to? To take a small amount like that. So probably that must have been very hurtful.
Right.
And the emotions right over there made me also cry with that lady. So I felt very much connected to the ground realities there. There were some camps that even did not have privacy, where even bathing could not be. They could not have bath in a separate place. So it was a common place to have bath, and I therefore felt that me being there, and telling the people about what they were going through would really bring about these emotions. And State Providence has been doing it very nicely in Goa, very meticulously in Goa, taking care of the people come what may. They no caste, no religion, nothing of that sort. So you just take people and you look after them.
Right.
So I felt like State Providence, their presence over there was good enough, and it was really nice. And of course, the people also appreciated that we were there for a genuine cause. So I think when we come back and when we tell some stories, the emotions do come up,
Yeah.
and many people come forward to help.
Donald, now a little bit more on the actual work that you all did. So what were the challenges, and how did you plan the whole operation? In the sense that what was the more immediate need? Was it food and shelter? Was it medicines? And how did you manage to put together this gigantic exercise of sending in relief material and all that? And what are your future plans and what are your challenges?
So we basically are sourcing material in either Imphal or we are sourcing in Assam the food grains. So as of now, we have about 33 tons of food grains gone in. Okay.
33 tons have gone in already. Okay.
It's already like
Across Manipur.
across Manipur.
Okay.
We are only in Manipur. As of today, we are only in Manipur.
But both hills, plains, both sides.
Yes. It is moving both the sides.
Both sides, yes.
We have sent the 4 consignments have gone of ration, but it's gone from that place. It's not gone across. It's from either
Fair
Assam.
enough. Yeah, from that area. Yes.
We have about 3 huge consignments gone of medicine. This is generic medicine which we are sourcing from Delhi, because there is no generic medicine at that rate and in that variety anyway in those areas except Delhi.
And you're flying it down.
No, it's too expensive to fly. We are sending it by road.
Right.
Two consignments went to Nagaland, and now one consignment is going to this Mizoram.
Okay.
So these consignments put together, if we had to buy it allopathy, this is generic, which is, generic is always cheaper. But if they were buying it at allopathy, they would have spent more than 15 to 20 lakhs.
I see.
In fact, the order which went today is a huge order.
Okay.
So we have sent only half.
So what kind of medicines are just painkillers?
Just normal medicine. We cannot give them any psychiatric medicine because they don't have any psychiatric evaluation at the moment.
Right.
So that will take some time.
Okay. But essentially painkillers, fever.
Normal pressure, diabetes, whatever
Right.
they are requiring.
Right.
There is about 1,000 organic sanitary pads which we have sent from Goa. Organic because you don't need to burn it; it will disintegrate.
Right.
We also have given about 1 lakh worth of innerwear, basically ladies. So they carried along with them 45 kilos of innerwear from here and some other items and some baby diapers, baby napkins we sent. That is the scenario what we have done. But what we are going to do now is that when they gave the report back or based on whatever context I have down there, there will be a lot of children who need to go to school and that needs to be addressed because giving the ration you can give for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, the fighting will stop. So we told them when you go there, have a look at children's school. Everybody had a topic to address.
Right.
So they came back with 300 students who need help, but I'm sure that will touch 900 to 1,000 once the system goes into a picture.
When you say need help, you would ideally mean that their schools have been destroyed. And
So that
the schools have been completely destroyed, so now they're just being placed here, there, and of course
Many are in the camps.
Right.
So there is no school to go back to.
Right.
So they have a plan that they will be placed in different schools, perhaps meaning like smaller little apartments which will function as a school, because in some cases there are schools which have no hope of being rebuilt because it's like literally whole buildings have been razed to the ground and like smashed to smithereens. So there's no, it's like if it was at least partly burnt or something, perhaps you'd talk about renovating it, but it's beyond repair. So it's like starting from afresh. So that's why the need was so much more because it's like children with no future literally.
And you saw this in which parts?
So we went to about 4 or 5 camps. In every place that we went, we actually visited the smashed schools to see what was the situation.
But mainly in Imphal district?
Yeah,
or?
in Imphal.
Oh.
We only did Imphal, yes. So then we found out exactly where are they going. So there is one school who perhaps could keep, say, like maybe just 50 kids or something. So they would need some. So it's like they perhaps would have to be spread over till such time as maybe like full-fledged schools, because the added difficulty in Manipur is that they don't have government-aided schools. And I often thought how privileged, in fact, me and Boss were talking, how privileged we. I mean, we don't even think it as literally automatic. There is no state backup at all for schools. So right from fees to books to any kind of sports things, whatever. And the need was so strong, because like so many, like me and Arthur, I remember where both of us were talking so long about this one particular girl where we did some interviews with them, where she said, all my certificates are burnt.
Right.
So I don't even have, I don't even know what I'm looking to now, a completely zero future, because who will take me without even a certificate to say that I'm a graduate? Because the Imphal University was attacked. They specifically selected the cookies by looking at the ID cards. So saying we were hiding our ID cards, etc. And specifically targeted. So then they were evacuated from there. So she was in a camp right from July with no education, no college, no books, and now of course no backup certification, which she doesn't even know whether they exist or not.
It's very difficult to whether you can retrieve it online or not. You don't know. I mean, it's
from some places, we were, when we had gone to meet the chief secretary, we saw a batch of medical students, and they were there to meet the chief secretary only to ask whether are there lockers in which their stuff is there, is it like anything can be retrieved or not. And then the reports were coming that was so badly burnt and smashed that maybe
this is the Imphal University.
Yes. That I don't think they would retrieve them, so like with no online classes right from month of May, they were looking towards a bleak future. So that's what we felt when Donald said, the tasks were 5 largely homes to be built, because entire villages burnt. Home after home, like as he was spanning the area with his camera, it was like, how much do you shoot? Like, it's like homes just destroyed. And when I say destroyed, like destroyed purposefully, like it's just not like, you know, one part broken, it's like broken to complete ground level. So it's like rebuilding their lives completely, and livelihoods, of course, because with the homes they've lost everything.
Kalan, tell me before I go to back to Bosco. See, now the thing is, one strong emotion that is coming out of there is that women have been particularly disadvantaged, and for obvious reasons and reasons that we all know, not getting into details of those, but it's been quite gory, it's been sad and all that. When you were having conversations, especially with women and young girls and all that, what came out of that? What kind of fears were being expressed?
So, of course, they say the problems for women are always much more than you would say for the men, because of issues. There were so many women who have given birth there. There were in the camps. There were women who are lactating. There are women menstruation. Like you won't believe. You'd think even when Donald said you're carrying biodegradable sanitary napkins, we didn't know it was so welcome, because when people are giving, they're normally not even innerwear. Like, you know, they have actually run away with the only clothes on the back, and people normally send clothes. They normally don't think perhaps of innerwear.
Yeah,
so things like this, you know, was so welcome. So women are disadvantaged, and quite often they told us about the lack of privacy, because of course the camps, and the lack of sanitation. That's why women would need, not only because of lactating mothers, we need good clean water to feed the whatever baby food to the babies. During menstruation you require much more, you know, cleanliness, but it was abysmally low number of toilets per number of people in a camp. So in one camp, it's the first camp we visited, it was about 1,000 people, but there were like 10 toilets. So like, you know, so they told us about the lines for the women there. It was very difficult. If you know, you can't have so many women trying to go in such few toilets. And the second thing is, of course, they often told us about complete lack of privacy, which of course is difficult. But yeah, so what they were largely staring at is, you know, like, and of course their plea everywhere we went was, we want to go home. And that was one thing we just couldn't answer when. And also, where is home? They don't even know whether it exists, you know. So this really crying need for at least, and those places there, I can tell you, Sujay, I was like, so, you know, like we're so used to so much of grandeur in Goa, like huge houses, big, you know, gardens. They're everywhere. At least, I don't know, maybe, I don't know whether it's all over Imphal, where we saw, there were only tin roofed houses, and tin, all made of tin. They don't have tiles, of course. And also pretty much the walls also made of tin. I asked them, why aren't you all having proper walls? You know, they said, oh, there's shortage of sand, and it's very expensive to have cement. So like literally shanties, like, you know, line after line after line. So even when we were looking at the costs of rebuilding a home, we could rebuild a pretty decent home for as little as 5 lakhs,
That's
like,
right.
you know,
Yes.
and that's all that they're looking forward to. And I thought it's really, yeah, I mean, it's really not much that they're asking for.
Correct. I mean, we are actually running out of words. That doesn't necessarily happen. But when I just, you know, numb sometimes with, very difficult to even, you know, take this forward, because you really don't know what to say. There is a sense of, and you all have seen it. I'm just a, you know, second-hand recipient of the whole thing. But one can, Bosco, you know, when you went to different camps and met people and other things, was there a lot of fear of the unknown and uncertainty? And also, did you get a sense that people who lived perhaps harmoniously, there's a sense of fear about everything and everybody, simplest of noise or any call, and you know, the fear of that, and also the fear of maybe kind of a bleak, uncertain future, or the fear of not being able to find the loved one who's missing. There are different kinds of fears, so we can just delve a little bit on this.
I'll say, Sujay, I think Caroline and Arturo, they mostly concentrated on the people.
Right.
So they are is
I will ask
actually
them
first.
that also,
They are
yes.
first hand, because they were this thing. Because me, I have been more of an administrative man, and then, but I was looking at the after effects of the riots,
Right.
that have taken place.
Okay, please tell us.
Yeah. So from my point of view is reconciliation cannot be seen in the near future. It is so bitter. There is so much of hatred between two. Like one community was, one of the started saying, how can you think of talking about peace? He says, suppose your own family members raped and killed in front of you, how can we do that? And you know, in that mentality, it is, you see the tribal mentality, it is revenge.
For
everyone,
what you do.
Yeah, for one, we have to take at least 4 or 5 people. So, I mean, there's so much of bitterness. I really don't see an immediate answer for reconciliation. in the
And you
country.
found this tone on both sides.
Yes. It is this thing.
So you're not saying this is said by the cookies or the
No,
Metis.
no, no.
The same feeling
Yeah,
came from both
both
sides.
sides.
Right.
It's, I mean,
Equally
they
intense.
are saying we can, means, because, and it is, if you can say, it has been an ethnic cleansing from both sides. There's not a single cookie in the plain. There's not a single Methi in the hills. It's over. And see, there were cookie churches in Imphal. There were Methi churches in the hills. It's over. Now, how do you go to reconcile them? Until, and I mean, the government of India has to really take a huge initiative to get these two, to address them. But the first thing is, you have to, that sense that, you know, of belonging has to come back to them. Then only you can talk of reconciliation and all this thing. Otherwise, this is going on and going on. It's very painful, because as a police officer, you also look forward. I mean, here's the thing, here are the alternatives. These are the things we can do. And you see that it's not happening. Civil society or whatever society has taken over this thing. As a police officer, I'm stopped by the police. Yes, during the curfew or whatever, yes, fine. Because that is, you have to respect that. But when they stop and they ask, and we tell, yeah, okay, theek hai, sir. Next you go few meters and the civil society stops you. Most of them are women.
Yeah, lot
And
of
they- and what are
insurgent,
you going? And they
lot
say,
of insurgent women's groups
Yeah.
used to just surround our jeep. So that was the very scary part,
yeah,
because
you
they
cannot
all,
even react. You cannot
Yeah.
this thing.
And why would they do that?
Because
So
they don't.
they don't
because
want us to
there's-
take supplies
Yes.
or thing to the cookie areas. So as we are crossing, so that's what he said when he says layers after layers. This is one of the big aspect of that society, where you have a lot of these armed.
Yeah, the Methi mothers have a lot of that.
that
mothers
this kind
group,
of,
which is-
yeah,
yes.
same with the
So
Methi
they are-
mothers, and they have a lot of these groups.
You can.
And they're compulsorily doing duty there. So like there are mass of women on the road, they put blockades.
So you're saying that you were kind of
Yeah.
prevented from taking supplies
Yeah.
to the
No,
cookie
you're not allowed.
areas.
You're not even
And we
allowed.
were told.
So
we
we
were
didn't
told.
take it in our,
We
we
take-
didn't.
We were told that you don't, others them,
They-
your jeep may be burnt off,
Yeah.
or they would not do that. Maybe they would take the supplies and keep it and say
Yeah,
go
but we
back
didn't know
home.
what would be
I mean
there.
that. So that's
So
what
how
I'm
did you
saying.
negotiate that?
No, we
hurdle?
were prepared for that. We were told that this thing, and fortunately, the priest, missionary fathers, they identified that we are from this thing, because the fathers were Nagas, so
Right.
the Nagas have they are accepted on
By
both
both
sides.
sides,
of
yeah.
So that's how it happened.
So,
So we have to choose who we are
so for me,
taking.
that is,
And
I don't see a real solution in sight in this thing, from a police officer's point of view, until something drastic. really
that was,
is-
I think, for Bosco the biggest.
Yeah.
He couldn't digest this, because, like, as a police officer, I used to always say,
How
I
can
was an
they-
ex-police officer, and immediately, whoever, whether he didn't have a badge or anything, but there was a mutual respect being a thing.
course.
And so automatically they said, sir, but we have to, even at the airport when we landed and we had to do the inner line permit, they were so apologetic to him that they even had to ask him for his identity to fill up the line, saying, so it's as per duty, I have to do it. So he said, yes, of course, I understand. But the surrounding by everywhere with this, you never know when they would just come and surround a jeep, and they would not believe you, and they would check, like look into your jeep pretty menacingly. And from what we have heard, that they would just drag people out and things. So it was always like a very tight situation, which he said, like, imagine this in front of the police,
and the police are there.
the police are there, but they're not saying anything to this group surrounding, and kind of this thing.
Because
is
that
looking
is the
into-
new normal.
Yeah.
It's normal.
Atul, I'll ask you to respond to my first question to Bosco, and and he's so since you and Caroline were and Donald met more people, just a little response on their fears and what were different kinds of fears that they expressed to you?
To begin with, before I can answer your question, is what I felt was, I have never seen in my entire life such kind of rivalry. Never seen a kind of a rivalry where neighbors would attack neighbors, when neighbors and colleagues would attack another colleague's home and rob their home.
In front of them, they told us the
You know,
stories, yeah.
Such kind of rivalry, such kind of hatred,
Rivalry is
such kind of hatred I have never seen in my life. So what I feel is that sharing the horror, sharing the destruction is not going to help in any way. It's just going to excite them all the more. So the only solution now is to bring peace, among the distraught.
But how do you do it?
Like peace in the sense, at least give them a kind of a homely situation. And Donald and State Providence, I think we are moving in the right direction, where how we can engage the children, in maybe in providing some games to them, how we can engage the women folk in providing them some kind of a solace, or sharing some good videos, or a good humanitarian kind of things there. So yes, sharing those horrible stories is not going to bring any solace to them at the moment. Now coming to your question is about I think you mentioned about the
I wanted to ask that, when you were speaking to the people, all of them have different fears and apprehensions.
Yes.
And what are they scared of? What are they worried about?
The most frightful thing for them is to now go leave those camps. How are they going to leave those camps? And that's a big question that also came to our mind, because some of those camps are within schools, are within high secondary schools, are within ITIs.
I see.
Okay, so at one point of time, if the administration tries to open up these schools, then they have to vacate the schools. Where will they go? So to come out of that camp itself is the first fright that they have. And secondly is, how are they going to, as I said, colleagues have attacked colleagues, how are they going to meet those colleagues back again? That kind of a situation. And of course, some children have seen their homes on fire. They are fleeing, they are just fleeing with, taking their lives along. How are we? That's another fright. I'm sure they must be getting nightmares in some situations where they can't sleep. So these are the fears that, and that's the reason why we were also harping on psychologists, on physiotherapists, on how to actually reach out to these people and bring some kind of some kind of peace to them. So I think that's the first task. Once we achieve that, then probably we might just take a little bit a larger step and go towards getting them back home.
Right.
Because unless that kind of thing is first worked out, we will not be able to just provide them homes. Is not going to be the answer.
Donald, see, you've taken on a gigantic task, and obviously, while every drop counts in building this whole ocean of humanity, but of course the challenges are huge. But do you think that there is obviously a felt need for more such organizations like Street Providence to come in and do their work? In the sense that I just want you to give us a sense of, even if you do your best and get everything in, how much would you be able to cover in that sense? Because it's a tough task. So do you have a sense of the mountain to climb, and there'll be obviously many peaks on that journey, but so if you could just give us a sense of the whole scale, and even if you achieve everything, what kind of percentage, if I can ask you that, would be able to cover? I know it's a tough question, but try and get a sense of.
Good question. Good question. See, if there are we will be able to do 0.5%, just 0.5. So if we get 100 more people to do what we are doing, we may get 50%. But it depends what experience you are going to bring along to do something. See, everybody wants to do.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
Correct.
So, we both have done relief in Kerala. So, he has a fair idea what's in my mind.
You did your relief during the Kerala floods.
Yeah, we sent
Kerala
13 trucks and he went on, he was there. See, we do a lot of relief, big scale, small scale, but I don't go anywhere. So, I didn't go to Manipur. Huh? You said you went. My job is to sit in one place and move the things.
So you didn't go to Manipur?
No, I'm not going to Manipur.
Ah,
I'm not going nowhere.
Okay.
Because I already know the problem.
Right.
Why going to see the problem is not going to solve the problem.
Right.
So,
So you were the behind the scenes.
yeah, because there is no
The emotional part.
See, there's no internet there. I have enough of, I have many things to
It's more
run.
of an organizer.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
What do you
know,
need?
Yeah.
You will require a lot of patience there, believe me. That I don't have.
Yeah.
So, the first part will be like, if we get the children to school, because there are so many other problems. So, if you start from the school, so the children are going to school, in the next 5 years, you will have so many children in school. So, that is the first part. But before that, now, today we got a call and they were complaining about nutrition for the babies in the camps. So, nutrition means what food we are going to give them. So, we would like to work on Cerelac, say 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs worth of material Cerelac to send to as many camps as possible. See, without nothing in your stomach, nothing is going to happen. So, my priority always food and medicine. So, the medicine is working and the food is working, that is ration. Ration will keep going. We will do 100 tons very soon. We will by maybe end of maybe August or 15 September, we will have 100 tons gone in, because it's going to, we are going to get people, because a lot of people have moved out. People have got exhausted and moved out, so somebody needs to sustain it. Medicines is a huge issue there, because that's one complicated area which I discovered last few days ago. The third thing will be now to keep these children going. So, if we have plans of sending in material like drawing books, coloring, art, something to keep them moving, toys, games, to keep them occupied in their mind. So, we work with a lot of psychiatric people. When idle mind and you keep thinking, looking, seeing, hallucinating, and if it starts from young age, it's going to be complicated. So, if we get vocational trainers, occupational therapists, children counselors, people who can go into 15 days stay in the camp, ladies who can go into the camp, stay there, live with them, give them something and come out, and the next team goes in. Simultaneously, there will be demand also for the bigger people to get employment, because if they don't have documents and jobs first of all is tough in India. India has more than 600 million people who are educated, and they now maybe some 5 lakh people will be there who don't have jobs. You added to that. So, that will be, and then finally will be building homes. How are these poor people going to live? Because once the camps run and they stop or whatever happened, I don't have experience of camps, but I know different people who give me stories. Once the camps dismantle, then they all become homeless. So again they'll reach back to the street. So again you'll have homeless people, and in those homeless people you'll have people turning psychiatric because they are stressed, they are upset. So how I would like to go about, and street programs would like to go about, is cover as many aspects as possible in the next 6 months, because this will last for 1 year. I don't know, I'm not sure it will last for 1 year. Let's hope it lasts less than 1 year. But looking on a long term basis, it's 50,000 people, and then
Yes, of course.
you have 12-15,000 people.
What you said is practical, yes.
You have 12-15,000 people in Nagaland, you have 12-15,000 people in Mizoram, and then how will society be able to support? There are many questions. So even if we do whatever we are going to do, it is going to be 0.5% of that, not even a 1%. It is going to be 0.5%. So on immediate effect, we are going to look at four shelter camps in Camp Kopki town, not even the district. It has got more than 56. We are going to work on 4.
Okay.
And we have the data of those 4 camps, how many children are there, 0 to 3, how many children are there, 4 to 12, how many people are there, whatever.
So in that particular town, you all are kind of zeroing in.
Yes. So if we hit one base,
right,
and run a model, then if anybody wants to join in, so you tell him, so this is the model, you take the next.
There's no
4.
point spreading yourself too thin. Yes, correct.
So
yes.
that is in Camp Popki, but the challenge is in Chichandpur. How you say it?
Churachandpur.
Yeah. That is my dream, because these guys could not go. Nobody is going to take them and they are not even allowed to go.
Yeah, no, we wanted to
we
go, but we
cannot
were
break
stopped,
in.
yeah.
We tried all the combinations, it's not working. And
You
that
couldn't get into Churachandpur at all.
there are
We
more
had
than
plans, but then we
there are
got
more than 10,000
information.
ladies and children in that area. So now the challenge is to work on Churachandpur, and there are two options which we are going to use, and we are determined to see that even if there are some. The last count I had was 86 camps there. So even if you get 4 camps, just like Camp Kopki, to focus, get it organized. So if you're sending a team, or if you're sending any professional help, the guy goes straight there, does his job and comes straight out. He cannot
roam around.
There's nothing to roam. They'll tell you about it. You can't roam. There is no taxi, right? There's no taxi, right? No. If you don't have a lead,
Right.
you should not go there.
Right.
And if you have see, I don't want to discourage somebody, but it is not an entertainment zone.
Yeah.
It's not a photo.
Yeah, you can't do conflict tourism.
You will not be allowed to get out of the airport. So
Yeah.
you should, if anybody wants to do anything in Manipur in the next 6 months, he should start doing his work now in Goa, get all his systems together. Where is the funding going to come? Where is the manpower going to come? How you just thinking of tomorrow I'm going to Manipur? No, it's not going
Yeah,
to work.
because many people did call us and say, oh, we would like to go, we would like to go. So the Donald question is, fair enough, they want to go, to ask them what they want to do there. Like, it's just not easy
See,
because
when these 5 went, they went with 5 different ideas which I
yeah,
had
we
in
had
mind.
plans.
And they have to give back an answer. So now I have an idea. So I have an idea about construction, I have an idea about education, I have an idea about shelter home, we have an idea about medical, we
And
have an idea about
employment.
employment, we have an idea about children, we have an idea about the ladies. So if we have to go to somebody for funding, if I have to approach somebody, if I want to sell an idea, if I want to sell a project, I need the data from this side to put it this side. So if I take 4 camps just per district, so these are the 2 problems. Camp Kopki and Chandpur. This is the problem. Camp Kopki is at the moment 50% better what it was when it started. Okay, it's coming in
Thanks
line.
to a little bit on your
Yeah,
efforts.
because there is supplies coming in.
Supplies are can
Supplies are coming into Camp Kopki. It's close to Senapati and it's close to the Nagaland.
right.
So there is a route. The problem is
Churachandpur.
Okay.
They told us it will take us almost.
So Kapokki is more towards the Nagaland border.
Yeah.
yes.
Senapati, Ukrul, that
Yeah,
way.
that border. So the issue is Churachandpur, and we just talking is getting little irritating. We need to hit fast through some system. So there's a team going to Mizoram, and the same team will go to
Silchar.
Silchar.
Street Providence team.
Yeah, always street. So we are putting 2. Now there's a different
So
team.
how many people do you have with you as volunteers, full-time people, dedicated people?
So we have one staff there, full-time staff. He is in Camp Kopki because we cannot keep any in Churachandpur. I don't have any work there. So also we have one lady who is in Senapati. She's a deputy director in a government department, but she has access to the internet.
Right.
So it becomes easy to net. So Camp Kopki, I am very comfortable doing whatever I want to do, and I don't have any issue. Imphal they are doing with Archdiocese. So he is moving it to Chandel, or he is moving things to Bishnu.
So Archdiocese is handling the Imphal part.
They are doing that part and Chandel part. Okay. The problem is this area. So the team like Bosco George sir will go for implementation. To set it up, there has to be a different team, because the guy, it's like, you wrote the question paper, you wrote the answer, you corrected and you passed yourself. That will not work in relief. So relief works systematically. Okay, there are different sections and each one does its section and takes a break. So if you keep using the same section, you will get burnt out because it's very stressful.
Yeah.
Right.
So we cannot see they are not senior citizens, but they are close to senior citizens. So you need to. It's just that it's very confusing.
Long hours at the thing also.
No,
Travel
I
itself
fully
is
get
quite
it.
a lot.
No, I'm also trying to. I mean, I'm absorbing a lot of what you're saying and understanding the difficulties with every
See, you
sentence.
can't.
that
You don't
speak.
even know what's the next difficulty. How you just need to know. Okay, that guy called you. He said, "Sir, these babies are for blah blah blah." Okay, sir, what do you want? He wants Kerala. Okay, give me Kerala. Because he's not going to tell you bullshit. It's common sense. We run shelter homes, so we know how people live, what they require. There is not even a mental hospital.
Yeah, in Imphal.
Within miles and miles.
Even in Imphal.
No, in
No,
Imphal
and
there's
and
no.
you see, all said and done, the Archdiocese of Imphal, they have a Christian medical center.
Yeah.
Catholic medical center.
Hospital.
Which is a hospital. Now see, this is catering to the marginal people. Now there are the high-end hospitals, they are with the rich. Now the government hospital, nobody bothers.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. And even the church cannot pay the doctors that
Yeah.
Exactly.
this thing. So Father was saying that some of the Catholic doctors who are there, they come on part-time basis to this thing, and they himself have offered one wing, which is there to
Shelter
home. As a shelter home.
as a shelter home to Street Providence. So we on a video call we were able to show how can this thing. So he's tube light has started. This.
Can I one question before we kind of wrap up on the way forward? See, as an advocate, you would have also realized that there are a lot of legal challenges, human rights challenges and other things. One is probably not even thinking about all this. But at the end of the day, for people to get justice, there are they have a lot to fight for, in the sense that now they're only thinking of surviving. But I'm sure if each of them, there is a ground to proceed legally and get some of the rights. I know it's at this point of time it seems like a very small priority in the light of what they have, but going down the line, maybe after 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, can there be any kind of legal advocacy also for them to get some of the rights back through the
Yeah, I'm
judicial
quite
system?
sure that there
Yes.
would be a large need for legal advocacy,
Right.
because as they were sharing some of their things, in fact, lots of things were going on to my head, like like for example, a simple thing, if she said I've lost all my documents,
Right.
so now it would mean that they would have like somewhere put something in place or get a direction from maybe the High Court to say that an affidavit to the effect that she's lost her documents is sufficient proof that she has done it, something
Right.
like this. But for this you would need some kind of directions or orders from the court. On the second aspect is the huge large scale sexual violence that has taken place, and so many cases of molestation, rape, etc. That entire machinery also would have to be really
Exactly.
give confidence to the women victims that yes, we can go to court and yet to get justice. Though hearing of some of the reports of how the courts function, and very senior advocates who have said this complete breakdown of democracy, none of the institutions work, the courts have not been very supportive.
But are
In
the
fact,
courts functioning at all?
so as of now they are not functioning, meaning
Right.
the sense, I asked some questions which people, some of the even lawyer friends looked there, I mean people who were not lawyer friends talked there. Like I said, what about like public interest litigations, like don't they work there, So they looked at me, it looked rather stupid, because we're still used to Goan, some things that still work here,
Right, right.
So like you'll show a huge illegal construction right in the middle of the field, and I said, but suppose someone did go to court and bring it to the notice, this is a field, it could not have been, and how does this thing? He said, when you go to court, you will bet and you will see that the corruption levels are so high that every document to show that it is not a field would be produced before the court, kind of a thing. Meaning, in short, try to tell me how difficult it is to get justice. So yes, there would be mammoth need, and I'm looking at it from the women's point of view, because sexual violence and those kind of issues, that they do come to court, because there's no purpose if you have a strong law under IPCF of 376 tightened after Nirbhaya, if you have POCSO and those kind of acts, mandatory sentences, no bail, you have a tough law but no judicial systems to make it work, would be complete travesty of justice. So I think there's lots and lots of legal interventions. There's so much of gross human right violations that have taken place there. So I think for all of this to come out in the form of a report, one Supreme Court making a big interventions is definitely not enough. I think much more needs to be done, because as Bosco said, all these things of ethnic strife has been there, like from ASFA, like the time of the armed forces.
days, yes.
Right from Iram Sharmila's. So her fight was against human rights violations. So obviously, if they needed to come onto the streets, it means that the democratic institutions are not working. So one of the aspects would be to strengthen those two.
Finally, I'll ask you the same question from the policing point of view. See, as you mentioned, and it's very clear, even the police, I suppose, they're all divided. The armed forces, forget the armed forces, but I'm saying police, the police itself. Police and the administration is completely divided. Now, even to investigate, or firstly, FIRs are not getting lodged. Even when they're getting lodged, they told the court that they are doing it with a lot of intent and all that, but ground realities may be different. So unless there is a robust, neutral police force, even investigating FIRs may be difficult.
We all know the obvious answer.
Must be happy as an ex-police officer now.
The obvious answer is like something needs to. See, the administration is so polarized that I think just before we could go, a cookie IPS
Yes.
officer, his jeep was burnt. Now, if it can happen to a police officer
Yeah.
who
Serving.
belongs to
Serving police officer. That's because
Okay.
the Metis couldn't think of an idea of, they said we have to salute these cookies who they consider
so
junglis,
they-
you know, so this.
And I mean, we in the police, like in Goa, I mean, I had all my subordinates belonging to different communities. I could never think that, you know, I could
Face any assault.
assault, forget assault. I would not be saluted by just because they say he belongs to another community. No, it doesn't happen. Like, you know. But here it has happened. Now, how are you going to deal with it? You require extraordinary laws to deal with this situation because the
Even to carry out normal policing.
Normal policing. Yes, absolutely normal policing. Because, like I said, if on the roads or nakabandis, if the police has stopped, after the police stops you, another group is going to stop you, then what am I going to do? This is the new normal. It's happening over there at the moment.
Arthur, your last words on maybe if there's any glimmer of hope or if there's any light, even blinking far away, how do you reach that light?
Very tough question to answer because at various points of time, whenever we sat together for a meal, we try to delve into these little pockets where, you know, we could actually make some headway somewhere. But the moment we talk about, let's say, for even education or even homes, building up homes, it's so complicated that you know, we have realized that the land did not belong much to the people, but it belonged to the chiefs. So there are chiefs in different villages. There were chiefs there. Now, whether those chiefs are going to be,
Allow you to build,
you know, whether you're going to
Arbitrary.
convince those chiefs to give back land to the people who have been displaced, is also going to be a huge task. So I think it not only administration, but it requires something very tough to get service to be provided to the people.
I
It's
just
going
said,
to be
you know, one funny system is there. Now, this is the plain, right, in Imphal. Now, if in Imphal there is a mountain that is not part of the valley, it belongs to the...
Even if it's in the same area.
within the area. They told, because I think the Archbishop's house was there, this is the road and then there is the mountain. So, the mountain means it belongs to the tribals.
Just because there's a mountain.
So it's all complicated.
Yeah, with all these chieftains and their own laws and all, it becomes even more complex.
We've run out of time, unfortunately, because there's so much more to learn. Fortunately, because the pain is very difficult to endure and talk about for hours and hours. Because, you know, all of them present here are narrating first-hand experiences and reliving their tears and fears both. But you know, it's been 1 hour of extreme learning and an eye-opener which was very needed for people in Goa. And though I must say that many Goans have plugged into the whole situation, they have shared their anguish. Goa has been one of the few states where you know people are regularly even coming out and onto the streets protesting whatever they could do. But obviously, there are the situation on the ground in Manipur, you know, needs to be understood far more deeply because there are so many complexities and nuances which have been brought home by the team from Street Providence who went there. And you know, with every problem, there is a fresh nuance, there is a fresh re-problem entering into the original problem, and so on and so forth. But I think the biggest takeaway from this in the whole ocean of negativity and despondency, I feel that efforts such as these at least give us some hope to cling to. They're still straws floating in the waters. But I think in life you need these straws, and Manipur very clearly needs a resurrection, and efforts like these contribute towards that hope of some amount of rejuvenation and resurrection from the abyss that this wonderful state has fallen into. And if you've seen that in this entire discussion, it's not about taking one side or the other side. There is pain all across. Some may feel it more, some may feel it slightly less relatively, but humanity needs to be healed. And at the same time, let us not forget that the people who are mandated to govern, to serve and all that, all of them need to kind of introspect and rethink, so that Manipur is not lost to India forever. That should never happen. And I think a lot of things need to be reclaimed, and most importantly, I think your systems, your infrastructure, your humanity, and all that, your sense of brotherhood, your sense of peace, everything needs to come together. But I think it is commendable, and all Goans should at least salute groups such as Street Providence and others who have at least made an effort to move out of their areas of comfort and decide to do service for, as I said in the beginning, this absolutely selfless motive to touch hearts and heal lives, irrespective of where they are and how far they are from home. And I thank all of you for coming and sharing what must have been a very difficult time, and God bless all of you and others who are making this kind of an effort. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sanjay, for giving us.